Welcome back, Gundam guys and Gundam gals. Patrick Grade here from GGinfinite.com. And today I'm happy to bring you the review for the newest high-grade Gundam AGE kit available at GGinfinite.com, the high-grade Ghirarga. So this is the next version of Zeheart Galet's mobile suit that we'll see in Gundam AGE. So it follows a lot of the same design cues from the Zeydra, so I think it'll be a good kit overall. And if you want to, go and check out my review on that kit and follow the link over here on the side. But anyway, back at the Ghirarga, taking a look at the box art, we have a pretty cool simple pose up here in front with the Zeydra coming towards us with his beam staff here. Pretty simple box art, but it looks nice. On one edge we have the obligatory front and back shot of the model kit, the plate layout here on the side, a quick action pose there in the middle, and a couple different aspects of the kit laid out on the pictures here on the other side. The Ghirarga has a tail weapon that looks pretty cool, a staff that can be broken down into two parts, and a lot of clear green parts here. So I'm looking forward to getting this kit put together and see how it works. On the opposite side, again, more obligatory information, some line art, suit information, a CG scene from one of the episodes, and another action pose here on an action stand. So pretty basic stuff all around, but it looks nice, as most of the AGE stuff does. So let's go and start with the review by taking a look at all the individual plates. And here we have the A plate, which is a solid red color plate. We have a lot of different pieces on here, parts of the arms, armor, top of the head, backpack area, knees, and we have the tail weapon parts here, these little sharp individual pieces here for the tail weapons. We also have bottoms of the feet and a couple different things here, so a good size A plate, although it's all one color. The B plate is also a monochromatic plate. This is all the dark black kind of color that we've seen on all the other bad guy suits so far. Parts for the joints, knees, crotch, hand covers, and that kind of stuff. So again, nothing too detailed or out of the ordinary here. Like on the A plate, this is all pretty simple stuff. Not too much mechanical detail or extra detail going onto these plates, but that's pretty standard for the bad guy suits in the Gundam AGE line. On the C plate, we're back at the red color. Just a few pieces here, legs, torso, and the chest areas. So next up is the odd one, the D plate, which is a pink plate. A very light pink here, and I think this is kind of what we saw on the Farisa, or whatever that female suit was called from the end of the first series. I never got a chance to build that kit myself, but I have a feeling this is kind of a similar color that we saw in there. And I've always said in some of my other reviews that I find Bandai's color schemes kind of suspect sometimes, especially for bad guys. You know, when you're dealing with the giant death-dealing mobile suits or robots, why do you have pink on it? So thankfully not too many pieces here, but we'll see what happens when it's all put together. Next up we have an E plate, which is yellow, and that'll go nicely with the other menagerie of colors that we have for the kit so far. Mostly these are all vents and thruster areas for the backs of the leg, knees, and backpack and stuff. Nothing too unique here. So next up we have the F plate, which is a nice clear neon green plate. A couple different pieces here for the accent parts on the knees and elbows when the Ghirarga powers up. This neon green is a little bit lighter than the neon green seen in the 00 suits, more of ectoplasm or Slimer kind of green. So one of the things that people find really odd about this kit is the fact that Bandai did not include clear green plastic for the beam weapon. Instead we're using some stickers here to wrap around the edge of the black plastic. And I don't get that either. I mean, we have a whole plate of green parts here. Seems like there's enough room to stick on two more small pieces for the beam weapon, especially since it's a pretty iconic looking weapon from the series, so that's kind of a fail, I think. Otherwise, we'll get a few more foil stickers here on the sheet. Of course, the ones for the eyes, the chest, and a couple different yellows here for some more accent pieces. So not too many stickers, but it's kind of disappointing to see the blades there. For the tail weapon, we get a bendy piece of plastic-covered copper wire. This helps us make a form and kind of pose the tail weapon in different shapes and stuff. Taking a quick look at the manual, a reproduction of the box cover here, and the line art of the mobile suit, and here's Zeheart Galet on the pilot for the Ghirarga. On the inside of the manual we get some cool action shots of the Ghirarga, as well as some line art for different main characters from the AGE 3 series. We got Ezelkant, Old Man Asano, Kyo, the different versions of the AGE 3. Some line art here from the Danazine and some more action shots down here, as well as a color guide. To put it together, there's only 3 or 4 pages of assembly instructions, so nothing too major for this kit. So let's go get the review started by taking a look at the feet and legs. A pretty typical design for the Vegan suit so far, especially when compared to the previous suit for Zeheart Galet, the Zeydra. Majority of the red plastic here showing through, yellow on the back and the heel, black poking through from the under armor, and then a pink plate on the knee, with a clear green spike here on the top. So the color scheme is all over the place here. The red and black I can deal with, as well as the yellow sometimes. The pink is just kind of throwing me off there, but the clear green is nice. As far as articulation goes, we have almost full 180 bend there at the knee. No articulation in the hip area because it's encased in plastic there, so no articulation there. The feet are pretty nice. We have a couple different points of articulation in the feet and heels. They can swivel independently of each other, as well as the ankle itself being able to move back and forth and side to side. So good articulation there in the feet. Although the high heel design is a little gaudy in this case, it works pretty well as far as balancing and stability and stuff. Aside from the color scheme, not too bad of a design here in the lower legs. So cool thing on all the parts with the green piece here is that there's two different forms of it. This is a simple non-powered up mode. And if you want to add the powered up mode, you have a secondary piece of green plastic for each joint here. What you do for the feet and legs is take off the knee plate, plug in this to the hole here, and this rests back on top here on the little slot and notch. So there is the knee area powered up, a lot greener and sharper. Holds together pretty well. And it's a pretty simple transformation, so a cool way to have a powered up effect for a kit, especially for being under 20 bucks. Cool green plastic, simple effect, and it looks pretty nice. So up next we have the pretty simple waist unit. The only thing that's really going on here are the side skirts. Actually cover the front and back, so they can move independently of each other on their own ball joint. No other articulation down here. The hip area is solid. Nothing on the back. The only thing we have is a slot for the tail weapon to plug into, and of course the action base spot hidden under the panel here. The color scheme falls in line with the rest of it so far. Red, black, pink, yellow. The only thing that's missing is a clear green for the waist unit here. No real panel lining opportunities either. Just a few slight notches here and there, but otherwise it's pretty plain. So next up we have the chest unit, which is looking pretty good. A lot of colors are presented here. Two different shades of yellow thanks to the stickers being applied to the top and bottom areas here. I'm not quite sure why they did that with two different colors. I didn't notice the difference in the anime in this area, but maybe there is, I just didn't notice it. We also have the black and red, of course, and then the clear green jewel in the chest there. There's supposed to be a sticker that goes on top of the clear green jewel, but it doesn't look too good to me. Although by having nothing there, you can still see the yellow peg coming through from beneath there. So I'm not quite sure how to handle that properly. As far as articulation goes, the upper and lower torso are separate. A little bit of ab crunch back and forth here, and then side to side, and you can twist it too. Only thing else we really have is the shoulder joints being able to pop out that way, but the neck polycap is solid in place there, can't really move around either. So overall it's a pretty nice design. I kind of like the shape here in the chest, although I'm not quite sold on it all the way. Nothing really on the back here except for the pegs to plug the backpack into. So that's pretty simple overall. So next up are the arms and shoulder armor, which follow the typical design set forth by the other vegan suits so far. Standard articulation there at the elbow. Almost 180-degree bend there. The wrist is free to move around quite a bit. The hands are the same deal that we've seen on all the vegan suits so far, with the little beam rifle down there inside. A unique feature here is the pink piece on the back, and then the green, clear green poking through from the underside that we saw on the knee. And on the shoulder armor itself, articulation there just below that can move up and down by itself, and the yellow piece here can also kind of swing around if you wanted to. Again, a nice simplistic design. Decent color scheme aside from the pink and the yellow. I can almost dig it completely. To power up the green plastic on the elbows, of course remove the pink plastic like you did with the knees. Plug in the secondary piece here. Gives you these two notches here to plug the pink piece back into. And this was not quite as solid of a connection as it is on the knees. A little more room for wiggle here, but maybe I'm doing something wrong. So like with the knees, it's a pretty cool effect and pretty simple to pull off. Looking at the head, we have a pretty similar design to the Zeydra, except for the big pink band going around the outside there. You can of course see the typical vegan design for the eyes, the commander antenna, and that's pretty much it. No moving parts, no flaps on the side of the head here. So pretty simple design, but I like the overall design of it, as I have with most of the other vegan suits so far. So next up we have the pretty simple looking backpack that's quite surprising as far as what it can do for being a high grade kit. Looking at it in this simple mode, we have these two different binders on either side of this simple backpack here that can move around the polycap joint. A huge chunk of yellow plastic down here for the vents or the thruster areas. And of course the clear green piece of plastic here on the lower edge. But the cool thing is that these guys can open up to reveal some thrusters. Very similar to, of course, the Sinanju, although much simpler looking and not quite as impressive. But of course, for a high-grade kit under 20 bucks, that's pretty cool. And when you have the thrusters like this open, you can go in and power them up by sticking in the green piece here in the slots, which serves for a pretty cool effect. That's a lot more solid than the elbows. I'm a little worried about how well these binders stay in place on the polycap joints, especially with everything connected. I think there's not much room for these guys to move around. We'll see what happens when everything's stuck together, and hopefully these guys don't fall off too much. So nice looking backpack, simple construction, with a really cool effect with the splitting parts there. So next up we have a redesign of the signature Vegan tail weapon, and I think this is probably the best representation of it so far. We have a multi-segmented tail that can bend thanks to the wire going underneath it, and it can hold its pose there, so you can get some cool designs going on there. We have about 7 or 8 individual segments here that allow the range of movement. On the plug-in piece here, this plugs into the back of the waist unit, or you can plug the beam weapon in the palm of the hand into here, so you have a handheld weapon or a tail weapon in the back. Looks really nice, although it's a little flimsy. Some of these pieces, the end of the tail here seems to come off pretty easy. Might need to put a little super glue or something on there to make it stick. And it seems like it could use one more segment just because there's a pretty big gap here when you get everything crunched together. But maybe there's not enough there for another segment. But all in all, the tail weapons are really nice. I think it's a cool evolution of the tail weapon from the original Vegan suits, and a little more effective and versatile. So good job with this weapon. So next up we have what I think is a failed opportunity as far as making a cool, simple weapon. I was really excited to see the beam staff in the anime, especially because I'm a big fan of Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up. But I think Bandai really dropped the ball on this weapon in the kit here in multiple ways. First of all, we have the horrible stickers there that wrap around the edge and the tip. Of course, we have plenty of green plastic in the kit that we could have used to make these tips, but they decided to do with stickers. And you can see that the stickers are barely fit around the edges. And another really strange thing is, you would think this guy goes together with a connecting piece or something, and it does. But the connecting piece is the hand. You can see the notch down there inside, so you got to slide this in there like that to get the full effect of the beam staff. So I guess it's a smart way on Bandai's part to do this. This way you don't have to worry about losing a piece and not being able to put it together. But from a fan standpoint, I just think that's a really cheap way to do it. Although it's very secure, and it's nice not to have an extra part floating around, I guess. And we get 2 of these hands, so you can have the weapon split in each hand. But overall, I just think it's kind of a failed opportunity, especially considering that this is a lead bad guy suit and a high-grade kit, so it's kind of a little too cheap in this area. We'll see how it looks on the kit when everything's put together. Alright, so here's a look at the Ghirarga all put together. As you can see, it looks pretty nice. It's got a decent profile from the side, especially with the tail weapon and the backpack there. And from the front, it doesn't look too bad either. Very Sinanju-esque with the binders here on the sides, of course. You know, definitely has a unique color scheme. Although I've said it quite a few times, I don't really care for the pink or the yellow, but I can deal with it. The clear green is nice, and the red and black work well together, of course. As far as articulation goes, with the front skirt or the side skirt kind of out of the way, you can come forward pretty far. You can also go backwards pretty decently. And thanks to the well-articulated ankles and using Robert 184's patented flat foot test, you can get a pretty decent split out of it. Although it could be a lot better if it had better hip joints here. For waist articulation, you can go 360 if you needed to. Same with the shoulders and arms. And you can also pop it away from the chest a little bit thanks to the flip-out polycaps there. The head can also go 360. On the back, we have a nicely hinged tail weapon that can go up and down, as well as turn to different angles. And the segmented tail can do a lot of crazy stuff too, like I showed you in the review for that. And the backpack is also pretty nice, and I'm surprised about how well it works. Stays on the polycaps pretty well, and has a good range of movement there, and also can kind of flip in and out too. So pretty good for the backpack. And opening up the thrusters doesn't add any kind of clearance issues, so it works really well. One thing I do have a problem with as far as the kit goes, moving stuff around can be a real pain in the butt because of the pink knee pads and shoulder pads. They need to come off of the transformation into the powered up mode, and they seem to come off way too easy at any point in time. Especially the elbows. They seem to be a little less sticky as compared to the knees. So it's not too big of a deal. It can just be frustrating sometimes when trying to pose it in front of a camera. So as far as the overall design goes, I kind of like the Zeydra a little bit more. This just seems like a better third form to me, in most aspects anyway. I like the chest a lot more in the Zeydra, and the overall complexity of the kit seems to be a little more significant than on the Ghirarga here. But I think it'd be better if you swap the backpack on either kit, so this backpack is on the Zeydra and the tail weapon too. So I think with the combination there on the Zeydra, it would have been a better final form than this guy. But if you have the other two suits for Zeheart Galette, I guess there's no reason not to get this one. It's just a little more finicky when you're playing with it than the Zetas R and the Zeydra here. See, Bandai, this is what you guys should have gone with. Looks a lot better this way. Alright, so here's the Ghirarga all powered up and with the weapon in hand. And adding the extra green plastic onto the parts, and I think it makes it look pretty nice. Adds a little bit of pizzazz to it, I guess, although it does add some stability and a couple posing issues, just because these areas don't stay on very well. Makes it a little more difficult to stand up and to get in the right position. So that's why I put up in the action stand here, just to make it a little bit easier. I think it looks pretty good. People who enjoy the clear plastic and the different colors and stuff will definitely appreciate this kit. The beam weapon, or the beam staff or whatever, looks pretty good in hand, I guess. If you can ignore the fact that the stickers are kind of peeling off on the edges there, and forget the fact that it's put together by the hand, it's not so bad. And I guess it works okay, but of course I would want to have a little bit better version of it. But as it is, for a cheaper kit like this, it seems to work pretty well. The kit does have some nice detail to it, some nice lines and accent pieces and stuff. Although, like I said, when comparing it to the Zeydra, I like that kit a little bit more. Even with these new effect parts and stuff on it, I think the Zeydra is all around a better looking kit and a little bit more solid and stuff too. So you can get some good poses out of it on the action stand. He's pretty flexible and posable. And having the option to break apart the staff, having it dual wielded is pretty nice. Add some versatility to the weapon, which is always a good thing. And of course the tail weapon get in the action too. It can come over the edges, round underneath here, so that's pretty groovy. You can also attach the tail weapon to one of the hands if you want to give it a little more variation. I've never liked how the weapons attach to the hands on the Vegan suits. It always looks pretty big and bulky there at the palm, because it plugs into the beam rifle area. But I guess it works okay. It's a pretty solid connection, and you don't have to worry about changing out parts or anything. So for what it is, it works pretty well. Alright, so I'm going to wrap up this review pretty quickly here and talk about the bad things and the good things for this kit. When compared to the Zeydra, I think the Ghirarga is a little underwhelming. I remember being really impressed with the Zeydra overall, how good of a kit it was. And I was hoping for the same for this kit, and it just doesn't seem to meet the same marks. The primary issues are the lack of stability with the knee pads and the elbow pads. The pink parts seem to fall off pretty easily. And of course that's because of the transformation process to add on the effect parts, but I don't think it's a good enough trade-off. They have that little extra detail there with the clear green parts coming out of those areas and losing the stability in both forms. I really think if you're going to have a transformation in the suit, make sure both modes are as solid as possible, and the Ghirarga is just kind of lacking in that aspect. And also, of course, the beam staff is just kind of silly in my opinion. I know I'm being kind of hard on it because of that, but it's an easy thing to pull off right, I think. But Bandai just totally missed the mark on that one. And as I said before in this video several times, the pink plastic really gets to me. I can deal with the yellow and the orange on the Zeydra, but the Ghirarga and the pink plastic just doesn't work. And I don't know why they changed the color scheme that drastically from the two versions. But of course it can be painted or overlooked by a lot of people out there. And of course that's just a personal preference. If you like it, that's great. But I just prefer the darker colors on my kits. As far as the good things goes, I think it has a really interesting design. Each of the iterations of Zeheart suits are pretty unique when compared to the previous. The Ghirarga is no different, especially with the tail weapon and the thrusters in the backpack. I think it's all pretty cool. And the attempt to add a transformation to it is nice as well. It could just worked out a little bit better. Bandai definitely tried to do something different here with the different weapons and additions and stuff. I just don't think it worked out quite as well as I had hoped. Like I said before, I think the Zeydra should have been the final form for Zeheart Galette's mobile suit, or at least a combination of the two. It just seems to be a more solid design overall and a much more solid kit. But of course, if you like collecting all the kits and you haven't got this one yet, it's definitely worth the price of admission. I'm pretty sure it's under 20 bucks at HGinfinite.com, so head over there if you want to get your own. Or if not this one, pick up the Zeydra. That's definitely a great suit, and go watch my review of that one to see if you like it. So in conclusion, I think it's a pretty decent suit overall. It could have been better, especially when compared to some of the previous suits from the Gundam AGE series, but at least Bandai tried some new stuff in this kit. So thanks a lot for Gundam Guy for providing the kits. Head over to HGinfinite.com to pick up this kit or any other ones that you want to. Thanks a lot for watching. Give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you soon.